All right, everybody, welcome back to America's Mom. I am your host, Sharona Bishop. Thank you guys for joining us today. When I think about the things that are really important to me to cover, there are so many political stories out there that we could discuss. There's no doubt. National stories, global stories. We are going to talk about a couple of those today. We are going to talk about Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell proof of life pictures that seem to be changing, by the way. So strange. We'll talk about those things, but really, what I think always sets us apart here at America's Mom is we are dealing with issues related to our children, real life situations that affect us on a local level at home, where community intervention can have a deep impact. We've seen it throughout the country, we've seen it throughout the world, where mothers get involved and decide, no, you're not going to sexualize my children. No, you're not going to make my children hate my country. No, you're not going to trans cult my child. No, we're not going to allow this stuff to happen. No, you're not going to use flock peace and safety as a guise to take all of our privacy and turn us into a police state. No, we're not going to do that. So we're going to continue down that path because what I think is really difficult for people is constant outrage circus about things you can't do anything about. And I don't like that. I don't like the idea that somebody would get up in the morning and watch a bunch of things that they can't do anything about that just makes them angry and makes life far more difficult than it already is. And we call that outrage circus. To me, that's outrage circus. Dealing with things you can't do anything about, listening to things constantly that you can't do anything about necessarily. Local is what matters. So we're going to stay on that trajectory. And I obviously really believe in mothers. I believe in parents. I believe in grandparents, those who have goodwill towards the future of our children and understand explicitly what is at stake here if we don't get this right for our kids. And so I think one of the things that I will be focusing more and more, well, I have a lot actually, but I'll continue to focus more and more on this, is the radicalness of the LGBTQ trans movement in America and the rules and the laws, really the laws that were changed in order to accommodate this cult because they wanted special rights, not just rights that we fundamentally all already have. No, no, special protective rights. This was so magnified in Colorado, which is why America's Mom was born, was because of the aggressive nature of this LGBTQ trans cult to shove all of this down our throats and then create laws to give special protections so that you couldn't do anything about it. You couldn't opt your kids out of this comprehensive sex education class that was teaching them how to perform homosexual sex. Yes, it is. It still is. It's still happening as we speak. You couldn't protect them from that. You couldn't pull them from that class because that was a part of their quote education. And by the way, lucky you if you found out it was even going to happen because they only had opt out forms that weren't even necessary in order for your child to be in the class and to learn all of this, what they thought was incredibly important information, right? The radicalness of this cult is spreading across the country. As aggressive as the Trump administration has been about Title IX, keeping boys out of girls' sports, well, the other side, the trans cult, has tripled down. They're not ashamed. This is their religion. They're loud, they're vocal, they are proud of what they're doing. And I'm not seeing any real signs that they're going away anytime soon. In fact, what I'm seeing is more devious and deceptive, manipulative ways that the trans cult is getting around the federal laws, getting around the suspension of funding, NIH and other, in order to keep advocating for gender mutilation of children. That's what I'm seeing firsthand. We figured out that these hospitals that had said they had stopped doing gender care for minors had actually just changed their coding so that they wouldn't get caught. Colorado Children's Hospital being one of those. Thank you, Ann Schutz, for all your help and support and funding of gender mutilation. Boulder University, CU Boulder, also advocating and creating a whole queer program from inception to death to promote the trans cult. It is bizarre. It makes no sense to me. It seems sci-fi. It's so against nature that we have to continue to focus on it. We've got to continue to be vocal on a local level and look for ways to create local laws that will protect and secure our children. Do they deserve to be innocent, or should we expose them to every form of wickedness as early as 3 years old, like they're doing in Colorado? That's a huge question that's actually being asked publicly right now, which I just can't believe. But with this idea of LBGTQ trans having special rights that protect them from what regular everyday heterosexual people would never be protected from. One of the most grievous stories coming out of the UK has been the story of little baby Preston. If you have not seen this story, I think it's really critical because this story is going on in America on a regular basis. We've seen highlights, we've talked about these stories, we've shared them. I'm going to be more aggressive about that because I think this is very critical. Because see, the LGBTQ trans movement doesn't want the same scrutiny, doesn't want the same accountability as heterosexuals do, right? Or are getting, rather, I would just say. They want special protection, special rights because they are special. So when they do something that absolutely violates every one of our conscience, see, they're getting a pass more and more and more before finally there are consequences we cannot come back from. And that is what is concerning me the most about this movement towards special rights, special protections, laws being created to protect LGBTQ trans from their own deviant behaviors. So I wanted to bring this story up today. I followed it, but I followed it loosely because it is absolutely devastating. This is out of the UK. Preston Davy, that was not his original name, by the way. It was Elijah Davy, but they named these two homosexual men who decided to adopt this little baby at 9 months old from a wonderful family, by the way. The foster family had wanted to keep this child until the mother had recovered from her drug stint. She was, had fallen back into her using and was in recovery. But the court said no. They were going to go ahead and place this child with two homosexual men and Jamie Vlay and 32-year-old John McGowan. And in that time, this baby, this little baby you see right there, he was 9 months old when he was placed with them. In 2023, less than 4 months of living with these two men, he was dead. Now, initially, when this story broke, the story was that little Preston had drowned in the bathtub, despite not being wet, despite no water in his lungs, despite no evidence at the scene of the home that a bath had even been drawn for the little boy. Okay, so initially, the baby had drowned, is what the story was. Well, I want to back up for just a second. These two men had never been parents before, obviously. They had come together in 2017. They became, got married, whatever, and their whole dream was to have a baby. They threw a huge, massive, lavish party. Like it was all the things you would expect, by the way, from really flamboyant gay couple. No offense out there to those who aren't pedophiles and don't harm children, but we all know what we know. Huge party, mural on the wall of their home of the baby, like pretty outrageous stuff, crazy. Okay. But they had convinced everybody around them they were going to be these wonderful, amazing, exceptional parents. Well, almost from day one, according to the evidence of the autopsy of this little baby, almost from day one of the 4 month nightmare that was this baby's existence with this couple, just their names again, Jamie Vlay and John McGowan. And Jamie Vlay, by the way, was a high school teacher. Can only imagine. I have not heard yet any of the backstory on this guy. I haven't seen any of the stories yet from students in his school, but I would be very, very curious to know more. If anybody knows more, I'd love to hear it. Um, but almost from the very, very beginning, that little baby began being abused. And I want to go through what the charges were, and I'm going to bring the mister on today because this story again is I think there were special rights and special overlooking given to this homosexual couple because they were homosexual, because everybody's trying not to be not trying to be, you know um or excuse me, gay phobia or whatever, or accuse them of anything just because they were gay. They obviously must be great parents because they had a mural of the baby on the wall. Okay. I think that this situation and these kind of adoption cases that we're going to continue to watch happen over and over and over, where a child is brought into a home of two homosexual men and eventually essayed to death, which is exactly what happened with Preston. We're going to go over what the coroner found, all the damage that was done to this poor little boy by these two men that led to his death. I think exceptions are being made because people are afraid to call out the obvious. So the mister is joining me now to talk about this story. So Jamie Blay and John McGowan bring this 9 month old baby into their home. They're going to be the greatest parents ever. By the time the baby's been with them for 3 months, this baby had already been to the hospital 3 times. Never been to the hospital before. He's been to the hospital 3 times. by the time he's with them for 3 months for various different issues, respiratory issues. And please, your imagination is going to go places you don't want it to go. But that is exactly what was going on with this baby. Respiratory issues, bruising, elbow broken within just a couple months of being with these two men, and then finally, eventually, it would end up he was unresponsive after supposedly drowning. Yet there was no evidence of water. So, before we get into what exactly comes down from the judge and the court on this, Neil, I wanted to talk. I want you to kind of share a little bit into this with me. We've been watching these cases. We've been watching special treatment be given and kind of been overlooking because of homophobia and transphobia, all the things that we were told we're not allowed to think, we're not allowed to look at the situation and actually make a judgment about what's happening here. You come from the criminal justice world. What kind of experience did you have in the criminal justice world with couples like this? I'm not saying necessarily that there were this exact kind of story, but I know you saw a lot. I'm just curious, what's been your take on this situation of the adoption, this whole new realm of homosexuals being given priority, by the way, also on adoptions rather than straight couples? Audio. I think you're muted.
Am I good now?
Yeah. You're good.
No, first of all, I want to say there's really no words to adequately describe the kind of degenerate behavior and absolute disgusting acts that this is happening again and again and again with homosexual men adopting uh, babies. For some reason, there's this fetish with babies. We've seen it in our home state in Colorado now with men trying to nurse babies and setting up little homes for children and all these things, homosexual, trans men, and all these things. So I just want to say, as far as the acts that we're talking about, and as far as the punishment that should happen, there's really no words to adequately describe either of those. And we live in a society right now, and you're right, I do come from a criminal justice background. And what I saw specifically with uh, with sexual crimes is number one, delayed justice. If there were justice at all in these crimes, it was delayed. So, in other words, from the time that the person began being investigated and charged with a crime to the time the person was actually punished, depending on your definition of the word punish, it was a year to 3 years. And we can't have that in a society. We have to have swift punishment because justice delayed oftentimes is no justice at all. Because by the time the person is handed down a sentence, all the emotion uh, and oftentimes in these cases is gone. And that's what the judicial system is designed to do. They want it to be an emotionless sentence, emotionless trial, and all that stuff. And that's nonsense. And they don't want the victim or the victim's families to have any say in the sentencing because they're too emotional. And this is silly. So that's really number one is this is delayed justice. And the number two, there oftentimes the justice is a probationary sentence or very light slap in the wrist for these types of offenders, and it's awful. Now we've seen that pendulum swing in certain places like Texas, where people are
Yeah.
getting multiple life sentences for sexual crimes, and that's a good thing. But these degenerates need to know that yes. So I have two views on this. One is my libertarian view that people can do basically what they want to do if they're consenting adults and if they're not hurting, victims. But my personal view is that the homosexual lifestyle is wrong. It's degenerate, and I'm not going to tiptoe around that anymore because I'm afraid of offending someone or because I'm afraid that we might get censored on social media. I just don't care anymore. That's my belief, and I can have that. And I think my belief is justified. Well, I know it's justified by a biblical foundation, but it's also justified based on what's unnatural in this world. And
Mm.
people know at the heart of this issue, people know that it's unnatural, that nature does not teach you that same sex relationships in an intimate and sexual way are natural. They're unnatural, and we've tiptoed around this for too long. Now, the only reason I bring that up is because there is a correlation. And
Mm.
we tried to like ignore this in criminal justice for a few decades ago. because there was this big push to ignore the correlation between homosexuality and other perverse acts, specifically against children. Now the data is too strong. The data shows that there is a correlation between homosexuality and uh, abuse toward children, let's say. Now, it doesn't mean that there's exceptions. There's not exceptions. Doesn't mean that we always have to, kind of apologize for what we're saying and say, yes, regular heterosexual people also have fetishes and all that. Of course they do. But what we're saying is that there is a strong correlation because this is it's an unnatural lifestyle. It's an unnatural act. And, like I said, I can have my belief system and I can say that. Now we're seeing, just from a secular standpoint, this
Mhm.
happen over and over and over again, where a homosexual or homosexual couple is adopting children, specifically babies, for whatever
W
disgusting, sick
I think
reason
'cause
that
they
is.
can't talk. I'm gonna go with
Could
they
be.
can't talk,
Yeah,
and they
they're.
can explain everything away.
Yep,
The adults can explain all the
yep.
bruises and all of the damage
You can't put a
away
4 or
because
6-month-old on the stand, right? It's disgusting.
100% or a one-year-old.
Yep.
I wanna kinda walk through this because what you're saying, this correlation between, homosexuality and pedophilia. And again, we'll just qualify it for those out there. I'm not saying that every homosexual is a pedophile. Stop. You know what I'm saying? What we're looking at here is 2 men who got a baby and within a matter of days began abusing this baby immediately. Okay. And it's happening repeatedly. This is the UK story, but I want to go through the charges. So, this is actually what they were charged with by the court. They were found guilty of these charges. Okay. Charged with Jamie Blay, who was the primary caregiver of the child, who was the primary abuser of the child. But don't get me wrong. John McGowan jumped in on the sexual abuse. So don't worry. He gets in here too. He's the other father. Jamie Blay was charged with murder, manslaughter, 2 counts of assault by penetration on a the baby was 9 months old when the baby came to them and died at 13 months old. Okay. Please keep that in mind as we talk about this. 5 counts of child cruelty because that's what he had documented on his phone. He took videoing himself being cruel and abusing the child. So they obviously got him on that. 5 counts of child cruelty, 13 counts of taking indecent photos or video of a child, 1 count of distributing indecent content and photographs, and grievous bodily harm and sexual abuse. Just case in point, according to the video evidence on the phone, okay, the baby was sexually assaulted twice once by each man right before he died, leading to respiratory failure. Okay. So John McGowan, the other one who was supposed to, who was working and taking care, supposed to be the male version in this family, was charged with 1 count of sexual abuse because it was documented on the phone. That was the last act before the baby died. 3 counts of child cruelty and allowing the death of a child, both pleaded not guilty to all of these charges. The baby was found with multiple injuries inside his mouth, and it was determined that he finally died because of obstruction of his airway. These guys have maintained their innocence. They went to the hospital with this child 4 different times. The last time was when the baby was unresponsive and had basically died. They have a video on the phone of 15 minutes where this guy, James Blay, left the baby and he videotaped the whole thing, guys. He left the baby in a tub for 15 minutes and the baby was struggling the entire time to keep his head above water, just trying not to drown. The cruelty of these guys is unbelievable. It very much mirrors the couple here in America that had adopted the older boys and was sexually abusing them from day one. And they did the same thing. They took video, torturous video. They sold it. They did all kinds of disgusting, horrific things. Those are just some of the stories that we know about, though. The nature of how vile and how aggressive this all is on a baby. Like what is this? What are we looking at here? Because they're going to try to say they've never done this before. Do you think that's true? Do you think this was the first time that they had ever offended on a child? And what is this? What is this that we're seeing with the cruelty of the whole situation as well?
Yeah, most of the time, in the sex offender world, most of the time, when somebody's caught and tried and convicted, they find that there's over 100 other incidents with numerous victims of similar sexual crimes that they committed, uh, that were similar to the crime in which they were found guilty of. And so it's almost never a one-off. It's almost never a, one time, as they like to say, one time mistake, I messed up once. Almost never. In fact, it's so opposite from that that, like I said, it's often over 100 other incidents that are similar to that, with many other victims involved. And the reason, I mean, there used to be, in different times and different cultures, and I think in some cultures this still exists. People are afraid of this, but there used to be community justice, and there used to be swift justice. And the more you allow the degradation of a society and not have any accountability for your actions, and allow the lines to be completely blurred, if not gone altogether, between right and wrong, between moral and immoral, then this is what happens. Most people have heard of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, and that's what happened then. And it's happened numerous times throughout history. I think it happened in Rome, and that's one of the downfalls of Rome, if not the major downfall of Rome, was the breakdown of the family and the allowance of all kinds of perverted and sexual sins and violence. And when society turns to uh, sexual perversion and violence for their entertainment, and in their personal life, of course, when they let themselves go, everything from there begins to break down. And I think we've had this. I mean, the black market for not just pornography, but for child pornography is so huge that if the government would actually spend their time, as much time uh, censoring that as they did censoring conservatives for speaking truth
Yeah.
like we are today, they could actually stop the black market of child pornography and almost eliminate it if they would simply put that effort toward it. But I think the reason this is happening is because we live in a world, specifically in the West, where this has just been allowed to happen. And the reasons why are because I believe that the elites, our overlords, whoever or whatever is controlling this, wants to maintain control over the peasants. They want as much destruction and division as possible. They want this stuff to happen. And when it's allowed in a society to take place, even though, I mean, and I think both of us have very libertarian views when it comes to our freedoms and things we
Mm.
can and can't be doing in society. But when it comes to the absolute degeneracy of hurting other people and specifically hurting children, there has to be absolute swift once it's defined for sure. There was eyewitnesses, or the evidence is 100% clear that this offender is guilty. There should be no years long wait for justice.
Which
You and
there
I
was.
know what the justice should be, and
Yeah.
it should be public, and it should be done, and that's it. And I think within a matter of months, things would start changing in our society if we would take care of these people quickly, and hopefully, if we can, locally, and where people know. I mean, there are people that move to more liberal states because they know that the laws are more lenient toward their whatever sadistic ideas and lifestyles are.
Well, Colorado,
And
you get 3 strikes. You get 3
yep,
sexual assaults on a child before you're gonna spend any time in jail. So,
yep,
I mean, neon lights. Can I share that? I wanna share this video. I didn't want to. I want to show it because I want people to see how, I want this little boy to be remembered. I want people to remember there were so many people who looked back on Blay and Jamie Blay and said, yeah, he was weird. Yeah, he said he was having sadistic thoughts. Yes, he said it was really hard, blah, 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 blah. All these things. People had a check in their gut, but they didn't follow it because I believe the reason they didn't follow it because they didn't want to be seen as homophobic. They didn't want to say just because he's a gay father does not mean he's a pedophile. And in this particular situation, he was, and he did, and it resulted in the death of the baby. But this video came out. Um, this video comes out. This is the footage from the security cameras showing Jamie Blay bringing the baby to the hospital, and I just want people to see this because one of the biggest mistakes we make is not following our gut. When we see things that are not quite right, and we won't make that call or we won't do something because we're afraid of social contamination or being called something like xenophobic or whatever, all these things, all these names. I believe those days are gone, but if this helps you to help those days be gone for you, then please watch and don't look away. This little boy deserves for adults to protect ones like him in the future. Take a look. this is one of those times where, you need some kind of justice, like you said. This went on for the trial went on until just recently. They were finally sentenced in June. Jamie Valet, the one who murdered the child ultimately and was the most abusive physically to the child, was sentenced to 25 years. But the other man, Jonathan, he actually, believe it or not, was given a longer sentence of 56 years. And keep in mind, before they brought that baby to the hospital, right there, just a few hours earlier, both of them filmed themselves sexually assaulting that child. They filmed themselves sexually assaulting that child, carry him into the hospital acting like they're just so upset. They're so upset because they're going to get caught. But this is why, in my opinion, we cannot be doing things like adopting babies out to homosexual male couples. I'm sorry. I don't think that this is a good idea. I never thought it was a good
Well,
idea, actually, by the
nature
way,
itself teaches us that they shouldn't have children because they can't.
because because they can't.
I mean, and so, oh, and people, well, what about a woman who's not, yeah, there are exceptions, but the general rule in nature is that a man and a woman create a child. Yeah, maybe that's because that's what our creator intended. So again, it's all going against nature.
Mhm.
And so when we go against nature, it's like holding that beach ball underwater. It's going to come back up and hit us in the face in a nasty and disgusting way in these cases. And it's hitting us in the face hard because this agenda has been thrust upon us for
Mhm.
many decades now, and now we're seeing the result of it, and it's awful, just
It's
awful.
kind of it's kind of crazy because you mentioned earlier you were qualifying. Of course, there are heterosexual couples that are gross and have disgusting things. I just don't know why we wanted to add one more. Like, why did we
Yeah.
want to legalize one more deviation from nature that was going to cause the harm and destruction of children? It's really incredible. And just remember, in your blue states, homosexual couples are receiving they get the preeminence on adoption now. Colorado being one of those states where you no longer can even be a foster parent if you will not affirm the trans cult in Colorado, by the way. If you are unwilling to affirm LGBTQ trans in a foster child, if you say you will not do that, you can no longer be a
It's
foster parent in the
mm,
state of Colorado. Okay. So, speaking of Colorado, it is in massive steep decline. You know a lot about Colorado. You've blown I mean, you've loudly talked about what was going on in Colorado judicial system.
mhm.
And I'm surprised they haven't called you to testify because they don't really want the truth and they don't really want to have to deal with the Colorado Supreme Court justices and how disgusting they all are. But Colorado in steep decline. I thought this was really fascinating. We talked about all the businesses that are leaving Colorado. Well, a recent editorial just made its debut. This was actually amazingly done by Congressman Evan. Gosh, sorry, I just forgot his name. Gabe Evans, thank you, Gabe Evans. Congressman Gabe Evans just did an editorial talking about the steep decline of Colorado and the businesses. There are over 100 new businesses that are leaving Colorado, preparing to make their great escape because they have gone the way of the UK. UK decided to start taxing, millionaires and billionaires into the ground. And so, what did they do? They left and came to America, into a red state, by the way, probably Texas. And yet, Colorado is choosing to act like they don't know what's going on. What is your take? If you don't mind putting that up, I just want people to be able to go pull this if they want to. This is the Gazette editorial board for July 10th. Another call on Colorado to take care of businesses. They're trying to get Polis to do the right thing before he leaves office and try to resuscitate some kind of industry in Colorado again, but it's not going to happen. What's your take on that?
Well, Polis is going to try to go out as a libertarian, which is so unbelievably like it's comic. And for some reason he's like got these Fox News, commentators or whoever they are now. I don't watch anymore, but he's got these conservative Fox people all under his little thumb of authoritarianism because they just sort of comply with whatever he says to do. And he goes on there and they tout him as some libertarian governor. And they were just amazed by how well he ran Colorado during the COVID and all this stuff. Those of us that lived there and that know better were like, what are you all talking about? So he's
Mhm.
going to try to save image somehow before he makes his way out. And I mean, is there a way forward for Colorado? I think that's a really great question. And I don't think we'll get there until we see what happens here. The governor race in Colorado is very important, as we all know. It's been a couple decades at least since Colorado's had a conservative governor. Now, Victor Marks is the conservative candidate now, but there's so much rift and division amongst the conservatives in Colorado. There's so much infiltration, I might say. I don't know, and I'd have to throw it back at you and say, do you think Victor Marx actually has a chance to win if it's even a fair election? Because we know that they can pretty easily get in there and just press a few buttons and flip the votes. Am I allowed to say that still? Am I
Well,
going to get sued?
the gold the gold standard is fool's
Gold
gold, as
standard of
both are
election
saying.
integrity is
Yeah,
Colorado.
yeah, we're all gonna go to jail if we say otherwise.
Does Victor
Actually,
have a
I'll
chance to win?
Well, I want to kick it back to you because the man in the middle theory. Please
Yeah,
explain to our audience what this is about. So
yeah.
just to kind of lay the framework real quick. Victor Marx, of course, wins. Barb Kirkmeyer, who was a really detestable woman out of Weld County, she's a senator there. I can't stand her, but she obviously doesn't approve of mutilating children. So if I was a Republican there, I would have voted for her. I'd vote for anybody on the Republican ticket because they're not going to support mutilation of children. And really, my standards are
Hopefully
so
not.
low. That's all I care about now.
Mhm.
And she lost, finally conceded to Victor Marx. She says publicly she will not be voting or supporting Victor Marx as the governor. We have an independent. Always got to have one of those. Greg Lopez, who has run for governor several times and has not made it across the line anytime. Really, his only opportunity was the 2020 election, in my opinion, yet he continues to run, which I think is a very bad idea. He's running as a constitutional candidate. He will no doubt take votes from Victor Marx. But there's one other thing going on, and that is some of these political wannabe podcaster kind of guys who are being sued by everybody and their dog because they're horrible people have decided to publicly play the man in the middle game. What is that?
Yeah, it's these people that have a paid following. They don't really have their only following is a small group of sort of cultish people that don't know any better, unfortunately. But Colorado has a few of these so-called conservative influencers that play what's called man in the middle. Man in the middle is an actual phrase used by three-letter agencies where they basically hire people to go into a movement and create dysfunction and distrust and get people to not like each other. What movements do they go into? They're trained to go into actual grassroots movements, always conservative, always grassroots, where there's people that are actually making waves. The man in the middle comes in and he starts playing favorites, and he comes in and he starts causing division and starts gossiping, and he causes distrust and disunity between people that have been working together. And we've seen that happen personally. It's happened to us a couple of different times by a couple of different people. And these people are not true conservatives. They may even have a show that has the word conservative in it, and they may get on and act all tough and like they like guns and they want everybody to hang and just go hang all the traitors and all this stuff, and they talk really tough. But one of the ways to know who these men in the middle really are is if all they can do is talk about themselves. They're total and complete narcissists, and they don't talk of anything of substance because they're not smart. They pretend like they're smart, but they don't have anything substantive to talk about. It's like scratching nails on a board listening to these people, and all they do
Mhm.
is rant and rave about themselves, and they lose their tempo. They lose their temper while on their programs because they're completely unhinged. They don't
It's
even know
very
what they're
Alex
doing.
Jones. It's very, I'm not saying Alex Jones is, three letter or whatever, but they try to emulate a lot of what Alex Jones does, as I've
Yeah,
seen anyways in Colorado, like
yeah,
just totally, just out of control. And
yeah, and
in that,
yeah.
they
Alex Jones is
feed,
actually a little more polished than these people are.
yeah, he's
Um,
had a few more years of
But these
practice.
people always act really tough. They always lose their temper. They always call names about everybody else that they disagree with. They just call them names. They scream at them and they act how tough they are. And they say, things like, if I ever see this guy if I'm ever in the same room with this guy, I don't think I'll be able to control myself. All this stuff. It's like I've never lost it like that. Lost control. The only time you ever lost control when you've been on the air is because you're talking about an incident like you just did, where there's a child that's been hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to keep your emotions together. But as
Hmm.
far as like attacking someone and saying, I'm gonna do this and that,
Right.
and you should hang for blah blah blah, and they're either acting or they literally have no control over their emotions because they're being controlled, And some of these cases, I think some of these bigger names even are under some sort of mind control, and they don't even have control of their emotions. So it's really
What's
interesting
the
to
goal?
watch. It's fascinating. People that are in Colorado specifically right now, because that's our home state, we
Hmm.
know and we recognize, and over the years, we actually know for a fact who some of these people are. You need to be really careful about who you're following and just watch for those signs. They're always talking about themselves. They're losing it. They're calling people horrible names all the time on their program. They're talking about themselves, calling people names, and they're losing their temper.
What
They're
is their
very
goal
narcissistic.
though? Like, what's their ultimate
The
goal?
man
And
in the
I
middle is to
yeah.
completely disrupt any real movements. That's what they do. They disrupt them.
Hmm.
They set people against each other.
Hmm.
And I mean, at some point, you and I probably need to talk specific examples of this, but and we have a little bit. It's just if you begin to talk about it, they put you in a corner. So if you talk about it, you look
All
like
their
the bad guy.
all
You
their
look like the
pedophile
one.
friends, all their pedophile friends come after you.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
another kind of interesting thing about these guys, these man in the middle
They have a
types who
group.
cause the
Yep.
disruption. They cause a problem, then they swoop in with a solution, although it's not a real solution because there's never any solution behind it. But it's amazing who their inner circle is. It's really fascinating. It's been fascinating to research a couple of these people in particular in Colorado and see who their immediate friend network is. So strange. It's
Yeah, it's interesting because
literal,
yeah,
yeah,
the last thing I'll
charged.
say on that is it's the same kind of network that the left has. So remember when
Mhm.
people come out like you years ago when you were reading material online
Uh-huh.
from just library book
Bills.
children's library books or
Yeah.
educational books that were completely disgusting. They had a
Mhm.
network on the left of these LBGTQ plus pedophile, whatever they are. I think it all stands for pedophile now, but
Mhm.
who would come and attack you? The right has the same thing. This right network of men in the middle who come in and disrupt movements and attack people that are actually making waves in a good way. They come in and they disrupt it. They have a network of people that come in and attack. So it looks like you're just getting taken down by all these real right wing conservative people and all this stuff. It's not.
Mm.
A lot of these are three-letter agency people getting paid
Yep.
to do exactly what they're doing, and unfortunately, it's worked in many cases.
Well, speaking of, I'm gonna come back to the Hollywood thing in a minute, producer Lauber, but I need to show the proof of life. Okay, let's skip for just a moment because I know you have to jump.
Yep.
But one last little thing, proof of life. Mitch McConnell has put out proof of life. I think this is important. He wanted the American people to know that his wife was not just hanging out with Xi Jinping. Okay, no, she came home to be with him. I'm shocked to hear that his little episode was a month ago. And she's only just now coming home. So they put up proof of life photos that are changing, by the way. The background's being edited. It's so weird. Can we put up the proof of life? Mitch McConnell says he is still alive. Don't you worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Let's see
Ooh.
that picture of Mitch McConnell. Do we have it? Proof of life?
I don't have it. Let me grab it. Let me find one.
Is that the hospital bed with the
It's the
nurse?
hospital
That totally
bed,
looks so 2 things about that. One, it looks totally AI.
but he
The
has a
other
newspaper.
the other, supposedly people have already the internet or the internets are fact
Ghosts?
checking it, and they're finding that it seems to be a picture from 2023
Oh
when
no.
he was in some home. It wasn't even a hospital pic. I don't know, but,
Oh no.
so let me get
Wait,
this straight. Are you saying that the powers that be are saying that he's still alive?
I don't say. I don't know. I don't see. I don't hear. I don't know.
There it is,
But there he
part of
is.
it. He's with
It is part of it.
he's with kind of an Asian looking nurse that looks to me to be AI. I'm like, I don't even
I
know if
think
this
that's supposed
picture
to be
looks.
his wife. No, no, that's supposed to be
Oh,
his
was it
wife
his
flew
wife? I'm
back
sorry.
home.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the rest of the picture, sorry guys, but this is the one I had when I sent the show in today. The rest of the picture is his wife sitting next to him because she urgently flew back. But not that urgently because it wasn't that urgent because it was just he just had like a mild medical condition and I read the article and she says her statement was it wasn't necessary for me to rush back because he was fine. Except that's not what his team said, right? His team was like, medical emergency, but he's doing fine now. And they made it sound like it had just happened. But the reality is, this has been going on for a month.
Well,
So
so
I'm very confused.
what about Lady Lindsay? Does that mean that he's
Oh,
still alive too?
poor Lady Lindsay. Do you have time? Can we jump to
We
Lindsey Graham
can,
for just a minute?
we can.
Okay, well, Lindsey Graham, of course.
And I have a timeline of events here too leading up.
Oh, can't wait. Lindsey Graham, as everybody knows who watches my show, I am no fan. Oh, there
Oh,
we
there's the
go.
real
Thank
pick.
you.
There's the
There's the
real
poll.
pick.
There's the
So
real pick
the
with Gigi
internets are
being sidekick.
saying that this is
Yeah,
from 2023, and this is like, I mean, and who knows with this guy? I wouldn't be surprised if he's been dead for like 50 years, and they've
they
been
just kept
doing some
having
sort
somebody
of
dress up like him.
Weekend at Bernie's thing with him. I don't know. This guy's,
Oh,
talking about an
that's very,
antique.
it's very possible. It's very, very possible. I think actually he was just on Fox News. Do we have that picture? Maybe I didn't add it. Well, anyway, we'll
Shoot,
post it up on
that's a
post
great
up
one
on
too.
social media.
Yeah,
I think I meant to, but I forgot. But he just made his debut on Fox News, if you know what I mean. Guys,
his after death
Lindsey Graham.
debut.
Yeah, so Lindsey Graham, a couple things are bothering me really quickly. Number one, hearing all the conservatives all of a sudden saying how amazing Lindsey Graham is and how just like he was the president's best friend. Like, listen, I have a long memory about Lindsey Graham, and Lindsey Graham is a warmonger. If you are the same people who think John McCain was a warmonger, John McCain may have nothing on Lindsey Graham. I never seen anything like it in real time. I was watching Lindsey Graham go behind the president's back just a few short months ago to sabotage the peace agreement that President Trump had been trying to make between Russia and Ukraine. Do you think that Ukraine launched those drones on the B 52 bombers in Russia on their own volition? Absolutely not. Mike Pompeo, Mike Pence, and Lindsey Graham, all three. This was back in May, or actually, like 6 months ago. Where are we at right now? We're in July. I think this was around October, September. I can't remember. I can't remember, but we talked about it here because I knew for a fact that all three of them went there without the president's support. By the way, they were not sent by the president, and they advised Zelensky's team. And I have direct information about this, and I talked about it publicly. They subverted President Trump and they went behind his back, and they are the ones who are responsible for pushing Zelensky to do those bombs while we were literally at a standstill or a good place in the peace agreements. Like there had been a ceasefire, everybody stand down. And then all of a sudden, all these drones rush in, blow up all the B 52 bombers, and the war continues. Why? Because people are being paid. That is the short and end and long of it all. I was told specifically Mike Pompeo is a pay for hire. That's all there is to it. Mitch just keeps making it. Pompeo is pay for hire at this point. Please do not look to him for American patriotism and America First agenda. He is a pay for hire. That is directly from the Trump administration officials that I had a conversation with. He is a pay for hire. And Mike Pence, as everybody knows, has zero love for President Trump. So do not tell me now that all of a sudden Lindsey Graham and President Trump are best friends. In fact, I was in DC when President Trump did his endorsement, which by the way was a last minute endorsement of Lindsey Graham. It wasn't like he was, celebratory because there was another candidate that was looking pretty promising. Last minute, he endorses Lindsey Graham, and everybody is like, are you freaking kidding me? Because we know that Lindsey Graham was a charlatan when it comes to President Trump. And I have evidence of that. I want to roll this video and then let's go through the timeline of events leading up to the sudden death of Lindsey Graham, which by the way, we are not celebrating because that would be wrong. We're just stating simple facts
Oh,
like these.
sorry.
Take a listen from Lindsey Graham's own mouth.
I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. I think he's unfit for office. And I'm a Republican, and he's not. He's not a conservative Republican. He's an opportunist. He's not fit to be president of the United States. He's disparaged women. He has an 80% disapproval rating among Hispanics. At the end of the day, he would be the most flawed nominee in the history of the Republican Party. He accuses most illegal immigrants of being rapists and drug dealers. He plays into the idea that maybe Obama is a Muslim. 70% of us in South Carolina believe that Donald Trump is not a conservative Republican. We think that he's unfit for office, that he would be a terrible commander-in-chief. He doesn't have the temperament or judgment. I think Donald Trump is a political car wreck, and people slow down and look at the wreck, but they eventually move on.
That honestly is not even the worst of it, because if you remember after the January 6th event, when Judas there took his silver to throw President Trump under the bus and call all of the Americans who attended January 6th domestic terrorists. Haven't forgotten that either. Just couldn't find the video footage to show you all today. President Trump has a way better memory of Lindsey Graham than any of us do and the attacks that he's had on him. But in real time, in less than the last 6 months, Lindsey Graham has subverted President Trump to ensure that war continued in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. So I am not suspicious at all about why or how this happened, to be honest with you. And I actually have wondered how this has gone on so long unchecked by Lindsey Graham, because he is supposed to represent South Carolina, not Ukraine and Israel and everywhere else that he loves to run around
No.
and represent in direct opposition to President Trump's
Yeah.
position, by the way.
No.
So please give us the timeline of events.
Lady Lindsay will represent himself and what's good
Wait,
for himself.
where are you getting that phrase,
And
Lady Lindsay, from? Are you buying
Oh, I
into this
thought.
conspiracy of the Grinder
Wait,
account
wait a
of
second. I thought
hang
everybody
on.
called. I thought everybody called him that. Well, is that? Well, I'll just say this, that there are many in the DC arena that don't want to rub shoulders. Man, I've been doing air quotes a lot today. That don't want to rub shoulders or get a shoulder rub by Lady Lindsay. But think about this. I want to give you guys something to think about. This is the guy who stated that killing Russians was the best investment we ever made. All right. Uh, not a big popular person by, over in Putin's world and the Russian world. The 48-hour death timeline is as follows. Graham meets Zelensky and tours a hidden drone manufacturing facility in Kyiv. Hours later, the Russian MOD, the Ministry of Defense, launches a devastating missile attack, completely obliterating the exact factory. Simultaneously, Russian precision missiles leveled a high-profile hotel in Kyiv, packed with top NATO commanders. Could Graham have been staying there? I don't know. Graham instantly dies suddenly right after that happens. Right after, and then, right after he supposedly returned home. The question some are asking is, did a Russian strike catch him in the drone factory or the NATO hotel, or did someone in Washington send him there knowing the missiles were coming? Was DJT possibly involved? Is he playing, 12,000 D chess and all that stuff? I personally don't think so, but I hold on to that 1% chance in my mind that maybe Trump has been bolstering up some of these people like Graham because he knows more than we know, and he knows their end is coming, and it's helping get them to that end. Now, that's a total theory, and I don't know that I necessarily believe it. I
It's
think it'd be
not
cool if that were
completely
true, but
it's not completely off base, because what is the book that we read that talked about I'm trying to think what it's called, by Richard Green.
I don't remember.
Richard Green's book. Let me pull it up, because this is exactly the kind of maneuvering. And listen, I think it's you and I were talking about this yesterday. I wish people could listen to our conversation sometimes, but you and I were talking about there is a reality check here. People think we're still living in a constitutional republic, and
Right.
at the heart of our country, we're trying to get back our constitutional republic. But you cannot deny that we are not living in a constitutional republic right now. We have woke activist judges making decisions based off of
Yeah.
their trans cult religion and their hatred, by the
And
way.
they've thrown out the
for-
Constitution. Like they
They've
don't
thrown
they
out.
don't abide by the Constitution.
I mean, we're about to go up against a judge on where I'm being coerced to use fake, false
Right.
language. Okay,
Yeah.
like we've left constitutional courtrooms behind. These
Yep.
judges are doing whatever the heck they want to do. We're not living in that realm right now, but we want to get back to a constitutional republic again. So, in my mind, again, watching the deviant behavior, getting to hear these stories in DC, that it's so confounding to me what goes on and how many of these people who are supposed to be serving us, we the people, they're not only not serving us, they're they're in defiance to what would be in the best interest of the American people. Um, you know, the Ukrainians don't hate the Russians like we think they do. Odessa, the supposedly the most impacted city by the war, is completely funded by Russian oligarchs. It's the Hollywood, if you will. It's the Martha's Vineyard. That's a better comparison. Martha's Vineyard of Ukraine, and it is funded and put up by Russian oligarchs who come there to vacation. Like, they need them. There's just a lot of inconsistencies here, but there's a ton of money that was to be made off this war. The fact that Lindsey Graham is over there promoting a foreign drone company, and I know what he's doing. He's saying, hey, America, this is where we're buying from because I am going to get a good deal out of this. You ship it over to the Virgin Islands there for me, put it in my account. I
Yeah.
know how this works. We have American manufacturers here who are trying to get their companies off the ground to support America first. And you got Lindsey Graham over there promoting a foreign company because they're
Yeah.
Ukrainian after we just sent them what, another $160 million. I
Lindsey Graham is Lindsey Graham first.
Yes.
Mitch McConnell is Mitch McConnell first. Most of our elected officials are elected officials first. That's why they give themselves raises. That's why they have lifelong free all the concierge healthcare service. That's
Mhm.
why they have become, a net worth of 200,000 when they start to a net worth of 20 million or more after 2 to 4 years in office. They are themselves first, and it's time we start calling this what it is. And it's time we stop doing these fluffy little eulogies for, oh, he
Ah,
served his country so well for 28 decades. He was in office for 2,000 years, and we're so glad that he was there. I don't care. I know that God does not take pleasure in the death of the
right,
wicked, but
right.
sometimes I'll admit I do. And I don't want these overlords ruling over us and causing mass genocide and getting rich on our watch while watching the peasants fight and keeping these wars going forever. So
He's
I'm
been
I'm I'm
so
happy when some of these people are out of the picture.
Well, the book is called 48 Laws of Power by Richard
Yeah.
Green. And I suggest that any American who wants to understand how this game is being played, you better get the book and you better figure out real quick this is how power operates. And I'm not saying I honestly, I'm not going to cast a judgment over it. There are realities of how the world operates. And this book lays it out. Richard Green he is spot on. He is very precise about what goes on in the realm of the powerful. And Lindsey Graham, in my opinion, from what I've seen and all the experiences that I've had over the years of watching him undermine us, the American people in the Senate, he's acting like, just case in point. If he wanted to get the Save Act passed, he would have done it a long time ago. You think he doesn't have twist and pull over Thune? He didn't want to. And so all of a sudden, for it to be a headline that, oh, Lindsey Graham was working on passing the SAVE Act, I'm getting that done as soon as we get home, President Trump. If he wanted it done, it would have been done. There was a deal going on. Something was happening. It does not come without a purchase. There's no way these people will do what's in the best interest of us who are supposedly elected by us. They will not do it unless if there is a payout
Yep.
somewhere. And I'm just telling you, even the nice ones you think are so great, and I'm sure they are, and God bless them, whatever,
They're
they are
great.
looking for a payout before they're going to do what is in your best interest. And that's just a fact. It's a fact. I know it's a fact, and I probably should stop talking.
Amen, sister.
Mm. Last story since I heard, never mind. I know you don't have to leave because I could hear voices. This is the culmination
We
of it
all know
all,
you
right?
hear
Where
voices.
I heard
No, no,
Minister
no.
Anderson.
We know you hear voices. We
I
get it.
do hear voices
Yeah.
too, but
I
good
think that's the
ones.
first time you've publicly admitted that, but yeah.
Good ones though. I only have good ones, okay? Okay, so hang on. Okay. So sorry. We are in a culture war. This is not funny at all. Sorry. We are in a culture war. And when we look, of course, at the degradation of our country, the attempted takedown of our republic, the installation of a whole new voting class, all the things that are done to destroy a nation, probably nothing tops the culture war. I wanted to share this with all of you guys. This is like back to a parent moment here for just a moment. And I want to share this with you. I just want to get your take on this. You spent almost 20 years, more than 20 years, working with at risk youth, kids who have been incarcerated, who have made really, really poor decisions in their life. And watching the decline from like 1997 to 2017, watching the decline in the children and what was happening to them. I How dark, how fast and how dark they had fallen by 2017. Like in 1997, they were still kind of like, you felt like there was redemption, early 2000s, mid 2000s, 2012 rolls around and things start changing significantly. By 2017, these kids in small rural Grand Junction, Colorado, we see a very, very dark turn and a decline in these kids. So I want to share this as a parent, mostly, and us talking as parents and what we've seen and what we've experienced with our own kids. But Jojo Siwa is somebody that we've watched this cute little girl who started out, dancing and just being the cutest little thing ever, and then turning into a lesbian publicly, becoming queer, doing it online to little children, attracting kids. Well, recently there was an interview that came out just in the last couple months, and I was rewatching it again. And I think this is a real warning for parents. What we see on the screen is not real life. It's not really, most of the time, who these people are. And yet they're having massive influence over your children. If we can roll that video, let's take a look at this. And I want to get your take on this.
This transition between the young JoJo
Yeah.
and the older JoJo, there was some controversy around that.
Yep.
But you made those decisions. You decided. Yeah.
So the last year of my life is the only time when it was different. The last year from Karma to about 3 months ago.
Really?
That's the only time it's been different. And I've, listened to outside opinions and gone certain ways and done certain things that maybe I wouldn't have necessarily done, choices I wouldn't have necessarily made. But I did, and I trusted because I wanted to do essentially what my boss said. I had a bit of a breakdown, and I cried, and I said, "Why am I pretending that I'm drinking alcohol and being crazy? I'm a good girl. I'm saying I'm drinking Fireball on stage, but it's apple juice."
Oh, wow. So a lot of those decisions over the last year around your
Have
brain
been
it
guided.
wasn't you. It was.
It's been guided, and it's been honestly, I'll be honest. Karma was me. I wanted to do that. I want to do that song. I want to do that dance. I want to do that makeup. I like that. Everything after the day Karma was released was not me.
Wow.
And that's very tough because I look back at my last year of my life and I think, whoa, it could be so different. I could be in a way different place now. But if I was in a way different place now, I wouldn't be on Big Brother.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have met my partner. You know what I mean? There's so many beautiful things in my life that they'd be so different if I wouldn't have made changes. So I'm happy I did.
And she needs to say that she's not suicidal, because wow, I mean, think about what she said. And this is the first time I don't even know who this person is. First time I've seen that. I made decisions I wouldn't have made. I said things I wouldn't have said. I was doing things I wouldn't have done. I was
You did.
being guided,
Yeah.
and I was doing things in the direction of my boss. Isn't that what
She-
happens in all of these stars' lives?
Just as a side note, she did the big lesbian push. So she performed on Dancing with Stars with a female. She was pushing the lesbian agenda, the queer agenda, claiming she was a lesbian herself, supposedly involved in a relationship with another girl, and really, really pushing hard on the LGBTQ trans movement publicly.
Yeah.
That's what she's talking about in this year, from the making of that last video, Karma, until hitting Big Brother.
Yeah.
And she's saying that that was not her.
And people need to understand that, like, a lot of these ones that we see on television or the music industry and all that, they rise naturally with their natural talent. But what happens is the powers that be swoop in, and they don't just like swoop in and like start doing mind control on them, like put them in a room somewhere. They just swoop in and say, "Hey, we'll manage you. You'll get a guaranteed, $20 million base salary. You won't have to worry about anything." And then they say, "Oh, okay, that sounds great, but it comes with these conditions, all the asterisk stuff. Also,
Mhm.
so hey, we really need you to push. We need you to wear this. Hey, we really need you to do a song. We wrote a song for you. We need you to do this song. Oh, you should pretend like you're drinking alcohol on stage. That'd be cool." And pretty soon, like she said, what she's saying is, I was doing things that were out of my character. And it's not like she's being evil and saying, "I want to just lure these kids into just degeneracy and all this stuff."
Mhm.
It's just little by little, they chip away at you. And when you go against it, when you push against it, that's when they really swoop in, like the Britney Spears or the Kanyes and all that. And that's when you end up in a mental ward. That's when you end up either losing your life, dying of an overdose, quote unquote, or those types of things. Because there are some people, Prince, I think, was another one. Michael Jackson. I mean, you look at these people that pushed against Sony, pushed against the system, pushed against their producers, the people, their controllers. They either end up dead or in a mental ward or out of a job. And so I would be concerned for whoever this is. What did you say her name was? JoJo?
This JoJo Siwa, she's been around for a very long
Oh
time.
wow, yeah. I don't. That shows you how
My
up to date I
my
am.
niece was watching her, and I remember
Yeah,
calling my brother and being like, "You better pay attention because she is pushing the homosexual agenda on children right now."
yeah,
And he was shocked. He was like, "She was such a cute
crazy.
kid. How can that be?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm just telling you." that's what she's doing. The part that I also want to kind of focus in a little bit on is, as you said, no, she's not seeing the devilish nature of all of this. She's having fun. She's in the middle of it. She can't
Yeah.
see outside of it.
Yep.
She was being picked up and elevated and believing what everybody's telling her about herself. She's so influential. She's all these things, and she's believing it. Thankfully, she wasn't involved in drugs or alcohol. So I think that's why she's coming through it. She's got a very strong man, by the way, now who is standing with her. She's become extremely feminine, by the way, just a
Mm.
lovely, lovely young lady. And I mean, hearing her talk is just, I'm just so grateful that she has been able to find her way out of that darkness. But she's influenced a generation of children who are looking at what she said was the right thing to do, express yourself, the whole Rainbow Coalition deal. And what did you see? I mean, it's been a couple of years now, which I can't believe how long it's been now. I think 2019 is when you wrapped up your time at Youth Corrections. Is that right? Is that about right?
Yep.
2019. But there was a really steep decline in what we were seeing in the nature of these kids that were coming in there, like from even 2015 to 2019. What did you see with them? I mean, the influence that people like Jojo Siwa or Miley Cyrus, don't forget, I mean, same thing with her. She's now come out publicly saying, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was doing. I was young. I was stupid. They were encouraging me to do this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But the damage is done because they convinced a whole generation of kids that being promiscuous is the way to go. Drinking alcohol is like just, and being queer is
Yeah.
where it's at.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge cocktail of a mix of a whole bunch of things. The breakdown of the family. Most of them didn't have a father, or they had an abusive father, or they had a stepfather that was a total jackass, that kind of thing. So there's that. Then what they have against them is the culture. There's the cultural push of all this stuff. Anything degenerate, anything unnatural. There's the cultural push to go be your own person, find your own way, which includes doing drugs and drinking alcohol and going to the parties and living a loose, immoral lifestyle and all that stuff. And then there's the medications and there's the vaccines that we've talked about endlessly, and there's all the physiological stuff that is against these kids. Most all the kids over the time that I was there, after about, I don't know, it was somewhere around 2012 to 2015, everybody was all of a sudden on medications. I met a huge medication push. Everybody had a mental health diagnosis. Everybody was on medications. And we know that pharmaceuticals drive all kinds of strange behaviors, and I believe it's an inlet for demonic influence as well. And so, yeah, it's a huge cocktail, everything that's against these kids. And then at some point, they make a conscious decision to either go down that path that they've been placed on, or they can kind of push against the grain and go a different path. But yeah, it's a mess, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. Except for that, I think there is a generation of young people coming up that's sort of their resistance to the resistance. Like they're
Yes.
springing back to, hey, maybe we shouldn't, like even just simple thing like maybe we shouldn't wait so long to get married, or maybe I don't need to be on pharmaceuticals. Maybe I don't need that vaccine. And some of these younger people that are questioning, because we have such an influx of information out there now, and they're starting to see this, they're becoming more kind of associated with health and nature and things like that. So hopefully there's an answer to it that's coming. And it also starts with the stability of the family and parents that actually care more about their kids than they do about going out and being entertained. Parents that
Yeah.
actually take parenting seriously, a mom and dad that actually stay together and that parent their children as they were supposed to be. When we're living in a society that's over 50% broken marriages and different homes where you have parents raising kids that aren't even biologically theirs, and so they can't really care for them the same way they would. So there's a lot of things in that paragraph that I just said that we could break down, but I think that's the gist of it.
Well, and I wonder too, as you're talking about there's a lot of, I mean, even the return to church, the church numbers are
Yeah,
climbing back with young church attendees, not just the elderly, but young people going to church, trying to figure out what they believe about what they believe, because this experiment, the Miley Cyrus experiment, has failed. It has failed everybody, including her and
yeah,
JoJo Siwa. I mean, it's a really good, it's, uh, I can't think of the word. It's anecdotal, I guess, but
yeah,
it is evidence if they're willing to talk publicly about those bad decisions and try to reverse and revoke that we are heading in a better direction. I would say though too, as the trans cult continues to try to sink its claws into the last of these kids that are dealing with the environments you just explained. I mean, that's literally who they're targeting. They're targeting, quote, at-risk kids who might be slightly autistic, who might be dealing with home issues, who might not, not have the support that, our kids would have with you and me both being here and watching over them. But that as that continues to grow, because I don't see any evidence that they're slowing down. They've changed vernacular. They're changing the look of what they're doing. They're getting better trans looking people, all of that. But I don't see what they're doing going anywhere right now. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what we're dealing with, maybe with the trans cult. I don't know if you want to. We've only got about like 5 more minutes, and I don't know if we should just yet. I don't know. What do you think? I hadn't really planned on that, but that's part of the culture war that we're in right now. Is did God make a mistake putting you in a female body if you think that you're a boy?
Yeah.
And
And yeah, no, I know. And I need you to wrap it up, but I will say this, that it's what I mentioned earlier. The trans cult has to backfire because it's against nature. And
Mhm,
anything against nature cannot sustain, it can't last. So, again, it's the analogy of holding that beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while, but eventually
mhm,
it's going to come up and hit you in the face. It
mhm,
absolutely will. You can't go through more than one generation of this. It will self-destruct because it's unnatural. And unfortunately, a lot of lives are being lost and will be lost because of this unnatural behavior. I mean, through suicide, through medications, through
botched
atrocious
surgeries.
stories that we're hearing. I mean, all kinds of stuff because people they're not living anymore. They're
Mhm,
simply existing. And they're trying to fulfill these unnatural desires because they've been told over and over and over again through the programming on the television that they need to just do with whatever they feel like doing. And that's never been
mhm,
the uh, the best operation for society to exist. It's not whatever you feel like. There must be a society of morals, and a society is only as good as its morals. That's it. And once the morality declines, the society begins to self-destruct. We've seen
mhm,
it. You don't have to wonder about it. It's happened before many, many times in history. It's happening now. And it mainly starts with the breakdown of the family and family values. Once that's broken, society self destructs within a generation. That society is gone. And I think, in a way, we've had to say goodbye to the America we once knew. And now we have to decide, are we going to rebuild it, or what's going to happen at this point moving forward? And I think, again, with you and I, it always goes back to local. We have to be involved in our local communities, our local school boards, our local city council, our local county commissioners, and local communities in rebuilding what needs to be there, what needs to naturally be there, which was communities taking care of themselves, um, and taking care of our children. And that way, when there is a child, which it used to be when you and I were growing up, there was the one-off autistic child. There was the one-off kid that maybe didn't know if they were gay or not, that kind of thing. And so it was very obvious that that was out of norm, that it was unnatural. Now
mhm.
it's become, oh, don't judge that, and everyone's autistic and everyone's gay, they just don't know it yet, and that kind of thing. And so nobody knows what they are because everyone is everything. And that's the self-destruction that's going on. And you and I, the amazing thing is you and I, people, individuals can be a part of the rebuilding, but it's not going to happen in DC. I'm sorry, it's just not. I don't even think it's going to happen in the governor role at a state level. I think it's going to happen in our local communities. We got to decide what kind of community we want. We have to build it. Just same way you
Wonderful.
decide what kind of house you want to live in, what kind of family you want. You decide that around your community too, and then you build it.
Love it. I, on that note, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been 27 years. I'll probably keep you a little bit longer. Thank you. All right, everybody. Well, we are at the end of our time together today, and hopefully we've given you some food for thought. I hope that this has really challenged your thinking. I don't mind being controversial. I don't think it's controversial anymore. I don't think it's right. What we're allowing to happen to our kids. It's just not. And if there's things that we can do, I remember during COVID, they said if we can save one life, all right, well, if we can save one child by ending this chronic nonsense of putting children where we know they are not safe, we should do that. we should do that. And as always, remember 1-833-42-PROTECT-KID. If you are a parent or a caregiver who is dealing with your public education system in some form or fashion, who is targeting your child and grooming them, if you think that they are being exposed to the transgender ideology, the LGBTQ cult in your local school, please reach out. We have resources. We even have attorneys standing by waiting to help you. Please reach out 1-833-42-PROTECT-KID. And I'm sad to see how often that number is being used, but we're here for you. Thank you guys again for being with us today on America's Mom, and we will see you back here hopefully on Wednesday. Thank you. Remember, all that's necessary for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do absolutely nothing. See you soon.
All right. Great job as always.
Oh, that was fun. Thank you. I appreciate your patience with me too, by the way. So I
No
think we're
worries.
good. Yeah, we'll be ready for Wednesday. And you doing okay?
Oh yeah. Otherwise, about the same as ever.
Same as ever. That's a good place. It's not a bad place, right?
I suppose. Yeah. Just need to figure out some way to actually start making some money again here pretty soon. So.
I know. I am talking with Lindell's team, by the way. So we'll see if they'll let us do some marketing for them. Let's see what happens. We're
Yeah. Or
significantly less expensive than in-house.
yeah. Or if he's
So,
got anything else I can help with now, I'm happy to do whatever over there.
okay. I'll let him know. I'll re-remind him specifically.
Yeah, or even some of the
Yeah.
event coverage if he's got things coming up or wants some people to film or stream or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I'll remind him. And I'll remind the head guy, because Mike is there, but he's like not really in charge. What's his face is in charge. Hang on. He's a really nice guy.
Oh, good. I'm glad they got somebody good over
He's the
there.
one. Well, he was the one that basically figured out Joe. Ian. Ian is his name.
Okay, I don't
And
think
he's
I
the
know
one who
him.
figured out. He figured out what Joe was doing, and
Yeah, good.
yeah, he was he got it. And he's the only reason Lindell TV, probably him and his partner, are the only reasons Lindell TV even exists still, because they figured out before Joe destroyed it.
Yeah, that's such a shame. Yeah, and the massive nosedive they took after Joe took over there.
I know. I'm not sure where they're at right now. I don't think it's great, but
Yeah, it's hard to recover after all that. That's one of the problems. But
Yep. Okay. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
you too.
See
See
you
ya.
soon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.